Yeah, hello YouTube. iSamfix Computer Solutions here today. Today I want to talk about the step-by-step guide on troubleshooting any laptop motherboard, because I've been getting questions from my viewers, and somebody will ask me what are the steps I can use to diagnose my motherboard, even if I don't have that much knowledge like you, or maybe I never went for any maintenance or computer engineering course, or maybe anything to do with motherboards, and they want to know how. So today I want us to look at step-by-step guide on how you can diagnose any laptop motherboard problem. And with this guide, you'll find that you'll be able to get a lot of you'll be able to detect a lot of problems, and you'll be able to work on them. So the first question you need to ask yourself: what is a laptop motherboard? What is a laptop motherboard? Yeah, this is a laptop motherboard. This is like a brain to a computer, to your laptop. Motherboard, yeah? That's when something mother is something where everything is connected to this one. Motherboard. Motherboard. Because the speakers connected to this motherboard, the hard drive connected to this motherboard, screen getting display and everything from this motherboard. When you have your USB port or your USB memory stick connected to this motherboard. So generally, this is the brain of a computer that has so many components that work together to achieve the desired results that you see on your screen, or when you're working with a computer, this is what you. So after knowing what is a computer, it is important to know why is motherboard important. And by the first introduction we have just made from now, you know why the motherboard is important. So from there, because it's the brain of a computer, and a computer cannot work without the motherboard, the next step is to know what components are in this motherboard. What components are in this motherboard? What components are in this motherboard? And this is where I think a lot of people don't want to do the work. Because if you look at this motherboard, there's so many components, maybe 100, maybe 200, so many components. Some are just a repetition, but just others are not repeated. Like chips, you find their chips are very unique on any motherboard. Yeah, in some motherboards you borrow from, when you're repairing a motherboard, sometimes you borrow components from other motherboards, regardless whether they are the same specification, or regardless whether they are from the same model. But when it comes to chips, you must be very, very careful, because you have to get the right chip for a certain motherboard, because that chip is motherboard specific. And so from there, we need you, after knowing that, like, you cannot be able to make a motherboard. And I keep saying this, you cannot be able to make a motherboard if you don't know the components in a motherboard and their behavior. In their normal stature, how are they supposed to behave normally when they are okay? When that component is failed, how does it behave? If you want to become the advanced, or maybe the cheap level repair, the people who want to become the cheap level repair, you want to be at that level to be fixing these chips here, you will be able to know what is a MOSFET, what is a diode, what is a capacitor, what types of capacitor are there in a motherboard, electrolytic, diodes, everything. The coils, what is a coil? Sometimes somebody will, I went on a video call with somebody from a certain country. I won't mention the country. And that we wanted to go through a motherboard together. That time I was not so busy like today. I went on a video call and I told him, can you put the motherboard on the table and let me view the motherboard from your side? And I would tell him, point the MOSFET. He could not point a MOSFET. And he could not point a coil. He could not point a capacitor. And now the question is, how am I even able to help this person? So there's much to be done on the other side of the guy, and before he calls me to be able to fix that thing with him. So it is very important to first of all know what is. After that, ask yourself, after you have known the laptop components, the motherboard components, then this is through experience. Sometimes I would say you might Google or you might check through the internet, but this is something comes, sometimes this is commonly comes with experience. What are the common problems with the laptop motherboards? What are the common problems with the laptop motherboards? Right now, for me, because I've dealt with quite a few, or maybe I've dealt with many motherboards already, I know what's the problem with a lot of these motherboards. When you tell me, when you talk about HP, I know what's the common problem with HP laptops, with the Lenovo laptops, with the Dell laptops. You see, because I've got that experience now for quite some time. So that one you need to get, you need to get accustomed to handling the motherboards and maybe trying to solve the problems before you can. Now, after you have done all that, now we come to the other part, which we say troubleshooting that motherboard. How do you troubleshoot that motherboard? Now that you have known what is a motherboard, you have known the components and the problems, the common problems in the motherboard. How do you troubleshoot the motherboard? Very important question. How do you troubleshoot? I said the other day, we have no angels in tech industry. There are no angels. Yeah, I know when you're seated there and see somebody, a technician like me fixing a motherboard, you think I have superpowers. I don't have superpowers. I'm not, I can't foresee issues. I wish I was able to foresee issues right now. I don't know how, you don't know what I would achieve in this world. Even you, if you are just able to know what would happen tomorrow to you, if you're just able to foresee like a business opportunity, if you're just able to foresee, even the betting games, suppose God gave you that power to foresee something before it happens. A game between Arsenal and Manchester, Arsenal and Manchester, they are having a game, and you can foresee what the results would be. You'll be the richest man in this country. You'll be the richest person in this country. Because suppose there's a game of Chelsea and Man U, and you know that the Man U is going to win. You can even bet with million. You can go to any friend or any bank and tell them with 100% surety, I know that I know who is going to win this game. Let's go and bet 1 trillion, and when we win, cut, and this is my cut, this is your cut. And guys, you are. So all I'm trying to say is that there's no angel in this tech industry. So you understand what I'm saying? So there's nobody who foresees, there's no angel in this tech industry. So that's why you cannot see a voltage, like a voltage on this motherboard. You cannot see a voltage through bare eyes. Just looking by your eyes, and you tell me, hey, I can see 19 volts here, I can see 1 volt here, I can see 5 volts here. No, that is not possible. And that's why you need to have a multimeter. You need to have a multimeter. I don't know whether you know what is a multimeter. I have one there on my screen. I don't know whether you can see on that side of the screen, the top side here. I don't know whether you can see that. I don't know whether somewhere, this one, you see, a multimeter. Although I can also use another one, a load multimeter that used to. Yeah, so this is a multimeter. I don't know whether, this one I stopped using it because of. So let's just demonstrate with this one. This is a multimeter. This one, you use this one to get voltages on a motherboard. That's why you need to have some of these tools, the basic tools, very basic tools. And with this multimeter, remember, we talked, if you know what components are on a motherboard, multimeter will help you to know how these components are behaving, the voltage on these components. Some, it's even about measuring their resistance, impedance, and other things. And that's why a multimeter has so many functions here. Now, this one is a direct voltage. This is a DC voltage. You come, this is resistor, and you come here, we have the amperes, we have the farads, and the alternating. You see, if you just want to, you like measuring a capacitance, you just come to microfarads or the farads here. You measure the capacitance. So we are going to check this later. This is not the day. I was just saying, just have a multimeter is a basic tool to get the voltages on a laptop motherboard. Gather your tools and understand the motherboard models. After gathering your multimeter, understand the motherboard model. That's where you get to understand how does power flow from one side of the motherboard to the other. Very important. And after that, do the precautionary. Try to practice precautionary measures on any motherboard. Remember, here we work with some dangerous tools like the hot iron. We have the hot air station. Those are very hot. And also we have the the needles from the probes of a multimeter. Sometimes for you to be precise and to get the very voltage from a very tiny pin, you need a needle like this one. And now suppose you're not careful, this one as they are going to prick you, and that is not very good. So have your tools. At least I always recommend have a multimeter, at least to know what is a voltage. If you're at home and you are not planning like to have this tech industry as your main industry, you can just have a multimeter. Oh, somebody is knocking. Okay, you can just have a multimeter where you can take voltages, and that's it. At least basic tool is a multimeter and a solder iron. You know, solder iron is something like this one. They are not very expensive. You can usually buy them on the, and you can just you can burn. You can see just burning. This is just for connecting wires. When you have a broken path on your laptop motherboard. So those two tools are very important when you are starting your tech industry or when you are just at home doing your. So after that, I'm just talking from the faults you can get through via tools. Now we have. I want you I want now to talk about the fault you can check with your bare eyes, just visual, and be able to see what's wrong with that. We have very normal things that visual inspection and diagnostics, the things that you can, okay, like what can I say? Like a water damage, yeah, a water damage, like a burnt component because of a short or overheating. Those things you don't need like motherboards or maybe a power supply to see them. You just use a visual, your eyes. Like for instance, maybe just to get a picture of how water damage on a laptop looks like. Let me see. Yeah, this one. You can see this one. This one is a water damage. This is water damage. You can see. Now this one, you don't need a multimeter, you don't need a power supply, you don't need anything. They just see this as water damage, and this is something that you can use your bare eyes to see. Let's see picture number 2 for water damage. I like this one. Yeah, mostly these are MacBooks. Yeah, these are near the screen connector. This is a water damage. What else can you be able to see with your bare eyes? You can be able to see with your bare eyes something like burnt component. Like this one. You can see this a burnt motherboard that is burnt here. It's a burnt component. So what else can you be able to see? Maybe this one is also a burnt component, yeah. And remember, this is very dangerous for a motherboard because as you can see the parts here, you see this one, these pins, you cannot be able to correct them after they have been delaminated from the motherboard. These pins here, you see. So sometimes you'll have a burnt motherboard, and all you can do is just replace the motherboard, because if a motherboard cannot work without this chip and this pin, their power rail has been delaminated from the motherboard, what else can you do? You just give up the whole motherboard and that's it. So I hope you have been able to see the few things have been like the inspection way, the way you can inspect a motherboard just by visual. So identifying faulty components through visual inspection sometimes can only occur through the water damage and the burnt component. So advanced troubleshooting techniques like using a multimeter, using a power supply, using a microscope, using other like a camera, all those things we are going to talk about them later. But that is a step-by-step guide on how you can troubleshoot this laptop as a beginner. And if you use this guide, most of the time you'll be able to get faults without failing. Yeah, I understand there are those faults that are very complicated, but in most cases laptops have very simple, very tiny problems. Like it's something that detectable if you have a multimeter and if you're just able to visualize with your eyes, or maybe follow power with a multimeter, and you'll be able to know what is wrong here and there. So let's do that for today, guys, and next time maybe we are going to look on how to diagnose laptop in advanced method, or when you are like a pro. This was just a beginner step-by-step guide to beginners. So guys, that's it for today, and let's see and let's talk in the next video. That's it. So keep liking, sharing and subscribing. Thank you guys.